Welcome back to The Betrayed. I'm Gina Beck.
This is Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I really appreciate y'all, and I really love seeing all the feedback, especially on Apple Podcasts. If you leave us reviews on there, we'll be sure to talk about them in our next recorded podcast. Also, if you guys have a betrayal story and you want to come on and talk about it, you can message us on our Facebook, The Betrayed, or Instagram at The Betrayed, or our personal Facebook or Instagram if you know where to find us. And we will hear out your story and schedule a time for you to come on.
Yeah, please reach out. And I do really enjoy seeing all the regular names on the YouTube comments and stuff like that. Thank you guys again.
How are you, Drew?
I'm doing all right. I got no real complaints. How are you doing?
Good. I would like to just dive into this podcast. As the title can see, you guys can see that we're going to talk about The Rape of Two Coreys, the documentary that just came out. I got a ticket and I was going to go watch it. And then obviously there was issues like hacking issues. A lot of us got the 403 error code. So I wasn't able to watch it until the next day. And I found it on YouTube. Someone was live streaming it. It was pretty choppy, but you were able to follow along and listen to it well without like the full visual. So it was still the same. And all I gotta say is I believe Corey, and I don't really like a lot of the comments that I've been seeing, like oh, I thought it was going to be other names or bigger names or whatever, because it all matters at the end of the day. I think what Corey did was, if you watch it with an open mind, take away everything that you know about Corey Feldman, and take away everything that all the opinions or rumors that you've heard or have, and watch it knowing that there's so many victims that have a hard time coming out, and that this alone, despite who it's about, will help so many come forward. Not even about the people that are in it. Of course, I'm sure if there's victims, they will, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about in general. Maybe your sister was, raped or molested. Like maybe her watching this will give her courage to come forward, and that could happen with anybody. So I would just like to thank Corey Feldman for even putting this together and taking the time, him and his team and everyone who was involved, putting the money and time to this, because it's going to make an impact. It already has the first day. So I just hope that people really, come forward. I think the issue is not enough people are coming forward, which gives the predators more power.
Well, and then that was the big plea at the end, the very end of it. He was asking if there are more of you out there, please finally come forward, because the end part was him showing the footage of him going to, what is that, SOG, the Star Association group or something like that, and there not being enough evidence. I'll be honest, when the initial premiere happened, I really thought this thing was a giant scam. And I was really going into this, watching the stream that is available now online, really thinking it was going to be a scam. And I went about halfway through, I was like, this guy's telling the truth. He's crazy, but if he really went through all of this, especially in the 80s, I could totally see why it would take so long for someone to come out for all these things, and being males. And a lot of it being consensual, even though it was molestation and stuff like that. There's a lot of layers that make me understand it a little bit more. And then I think I don't know, you could just tell he's not lying. Yeah, he's crazy, but he's been molested for what, decades? Or was that essentially? The entire thing, I mean, people were angry about the names, but these are big names. He accuses John Grissom, which is not a huge actor, Dominic Rosera, who was in a bunch of those movies that the Coreys were in. Marty Wise was big at one point. Charlie Sheen is still huge. And then the Hoffman, the father and son, Alfie Hoffman, that threw those parties, and then Bobby Hoffman, he was considered a veteran casting guy. Those are huge names. Yeah, they might not be as relevant in 2020, but then who else is getting away with this stuff now?
Exactly. And also Dominic, he was Corey Feldman's roommate, right? For some time. And the other Corey Haim, he had to tell him like, you're my best friend and you're friends with the man that raped me and he's your roommate. I can't be your friend anymore, come around. And then Corey had to get rid of him like ASAP because he just couldn't have that around. I thought that was odd, honestly.
Well, and didn't they explain, was that the same relationship where Hames would go back and forth with like being friends and like kind of side dating him? Was it that same relationship? Because I got there were so many overlapping ones. I was just like trying to take notes, but all of them, regardless, they were all underage. Like
Yeah.
it was rape. Whether if
Yeah.
it was consensual or not, these were adult men raping teenagers, teenage boys.
What really resonated with me is the story when Corey said that Charlie Sheen had taken Corey Haim in between two trailers on a set and put Crisco oil on his butt and had sex with him. And he was 13 and Charlie Sheen was 19 at the time. And
Yeah,
nobody was around. Nobody was around and happened to walk by or see it or check on the kid.
either
And
that
that's
or
something
everyone was okay with it.
or that. But something also that I heard in the documentary is they were saying how they had so much money. How come they couldn't fund for someone to be checking on the kids? Like, you know what I mean? Let's say
Oh
that's
yeah,
just
they said
odd.
like $170 million budget for a movie, and they can't afford someone to watch the kids. And it seems pretty crazy when you really put it into that perspective. I forgot about that part. That was really good.
Right. Yeah, it just seems like a huge mess. And I feel like there's just so many more people who could come forward and have Corey's back. Not even just as a victim, but as someone who has probably seen it or has heard stories from someone close to them or something. Like, it's Hollywood. Everyone knows who's who, I feel like, you know what I mean? But not enough people are coming forward and talking about it.
So I know you watched it because we were going back and forth with it during the premiere videos that were coming up with the people that were actually there, and there was that part. To me, when I watched it, seemed very staged, and they were claiming the Wolfpack was hacking them. What do you
Trolls,
think?
online trolls.
Do you think that for sure?
We all
Yeah.
deal with them.
Yeah, I think what it really was is
A group of
I
angry
think they were
people.
oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was
Sorry.
gonna say what I think really happened is they were underprepared for how many people actually wanted to watch this, and I really think the server just crashed. I really think
Right.
I don't think it was malicious.
You're talking about the hacking situation or the wolf pack? Because isn't that two separate
Well,
things?
they were claiming in that video that the Wolfpack was doing it. If you go back and watch it, they bring up the Wolfpack during
And
that.
they're the ones that hacked
Yeah,
of the premiere?
supposedly. I mean, that's who Corey and I think it was two other people that were on stage, and they were playing audio of like a phone call, and it was people talking. They're like, we're live watching it hacking.
Mm,
It's the Wolfpack.
that's crazy.
I tried to dig more into that, but I couldn't really get anything else. If anyone knows anything more about that, please like share links because I would love to see them. Because I found that interesting. Because the Wolfpack is supposedly ran by Judy Haim, Corey Haim's mother. That's what they were claiming in that, and I kind of brushed that off really hard right when they said that, and then start seeing the screenshots and things like that. Granted, those could have been faked, but they.
So, so speaking of Judy Haim, she has claimed that Charlie Sheen is not involved, right? He has nothing to do. He shouldn't be in the same category as the other men, right? And it's because she didn't get told by Corey Haim, allegedly, that he was being raped, or he was raped by Charlie. So something that Charlie came out with a statement, because this has been talked about, I mean, 2 years ago. Judy Haim came out with a statement, and she had Charlie's back, essentially. Well, Charlie came out with a tweet saying, if you don't believe me, just ask Judy Haim. And isn't that kind of suspect? You know what I mean? If you don't believe me, go ask Judy Haim, the one that has his back. To me, that sounds like a paid off situation. If it, and it just seems so paid off.
I never thought of it like that. It's really weird to me. I'm that totally could have happened. This thing's so messy and so it. The other thing that harms everything is just how long ago everything happened, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like who knows how many of these people would even want to come forward at this point and bring that hectic, that chaos to their life instantly after living through all that too. Because I mean, they could be on their feet finally kind of like healed in some way.
Relating with what I just said about Judy Haim and having his back, there's a comment from a supporter I would like to read. And it says, in the 80s, or back then in like the 80s, there's a thing where, you know, right, Illuminati type stuff, right? Some people believe it, some people don't. But they were relating it and they were saying, you know, in the 80s, like parents and celebrities, stuff like that, like if you wanted to be famous, you had to sacrifice a child, and it didn't have to be like in murder, it could be sexually. And I just like to talk about that. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Have you heard rumors and
I
kept up
mean,
with the
I've heard
Illuminati?
those. I've heard all those rumors and the stuff
Mm-hmm.
about. It's a deep
You think it's
subject
just
that I
like
don't want to like divide people on, but I
yeah.
think there's a
I had
big.
to ask because like that comment has resonated with me and I just don't know what, like I don't know
For a
what to think
long
about it.
time, I was a real believer in like world conspiracy, Illuminati stuff, and that stopped. Then the Epstein stuff started, and I don't know if it's some giant cult like everybody thinks, but there's definitely something going on. Like they're referencing something. I mean, that's maybe nobody knows what else to call it. The term Illuminati has been totally like hijacked from its original term anyways, so it means nothing but negative things. I It could be. What do you think?
I honestly I don't know what to think. It was such a crazy thing to see, to even like to be able to process that, you know, and like if it was to be confirmed.
Well, I mean, doesn't it? I mean, with the things that you've dealt with, and I've edited those chat logs, and knowing all the busts that go around with human trafficking and the places, I mean, it doesn't seem that far fetched to the like some type of ring of people would be out there trying to suppress it because it seems like it's like really a real taboo fetish that seems to have been around for a long time. Because I mean, you can go back to like Greek and Egyptian type stuff, and
Mm,
they show that they show basically molestation in depictions.
mm-hmm.
So could be. It's crazy to say that, and I hate like saying that out publicly. But maybe that is what the Illuminati is. Maybe it's just a child raping ring.
It could be so many things. Like who knows? I guess we'll find out one day, maybe.
But they did.
um
Oh, I was going to bring up two other things in the documentary, though. They brought up two convicted Hollywood elites. Now, I don't really the two listed or the three listed. Honestly, I don't know them very well, but I know that enough that when you do a Google search on them, they come up a lot. I'm not a huge movie person, but they named Goddard. Is that how you say his name? And he was a Hollywood producer, and he was accused of sexual misconduct with minors by 8 former child actors in 2017. The article from the Los Angeles Times reads, "The young male actors in his routine in Santa Barbara, which is the county I live in the 70s, Gary Goddard was an exalted figure. A successful former theater prodigy, Goddard returned through his 20s to redirect and mentor child actors in his hometown, vowing to bring the most talented to him to Hollywood. He attracted a constant orbit of devoted boys, others referred to as the Gollardites. But in seemingly idyllic settings, and the privilege promise had a dark edge for several members of the theater group. 4 decades later, many of them say that they had been haunted by the encounters with Goddard. Since actor Elizabeth Warren wrote an online essay last month that Goddard sexually abused him in a pubescent actor in Santa Barbara, 7 others from the theater group told the Los Angeles Times that their former mentor was molested or attempted to molest them as boys. And it just goes on to just more explanation of that.
so he's a serial rapist then.
Yeah, and this has
That's
been going on since the 70s. And then there was one more. There was the Disney actor, Stoney Westmoreland, and he was tried and convicted, basically another decoy. He was trying to pick up a 13-year-old. And then he also supposedly, because that's the other kid they interview, Ricky Garcia, and
Yes,
like they were
he was
saying
in
that
the
it happened in Catalina Island, where there
he
was
was in
like
the documentary as well, Ricky Garcia.
yeah, and they talked about like no adult parties out on Catalina Island, which is islands just off the so. I mean, if you watched uh, Step Brothers, they go to Catalina Island. but
Mhm.
it's a pretty isolated place for rich people. And then the other one was Stephen Wilder Striegel, and he was convicted of in a Connecticut court in 2010 of risk of injury to a minor and enticing a minor by computer.
Right. That's messed up. So that's something that I've said for so long is that coaches, actors, publicists, teachers, doctors, these people are finding these jobs that put them in positions to be around children more or teenagers more than adults. And they're the ones that are mostly in this documentary that are the rapists. So that like that it just it's not like we grew up learning about stranger danger, right? It's not strangers though. It's not always strangers. Honestly, the percentage of strangers is a lot smaller than the percentage of family and friends and people you work with and are close to or family is close to. So that's what the scary thing is. We've been brought up to be afraid of strangers when it's the people that are right next to us most of the time. And so something that parents should take from this also is with your kid, like pay attention to who wants to spend time with your kid and why and how long and it's like the reasoning behind it because obviously like a dad and a grandpa they want to fucking do excuse my language but I get like really passionate about this but they want to like do a thing where they want to hang out with their grandchildren. Okay, normal. All right. An uncle that hasn't been around in years shows up and is in a gorilla suit at a wedding and wants all the kids to sit on his lap. Okay, that is wrong. And I know of a man in my hometown who did that and got caught years later for being a child rapist. So things like that do happen, and you just need to pay attention to who comes around randomly and at what times and like who they're hanging around most or oddly touching, playing with hair, touching the shoulder, the leg. Like it's very inappropriate gestures to where they're inching closer and closer to make it seem like it's appropriate and normal. And just like what Corey had said, when he was younger, he had been told men and boys have sex in Hollywood. It's normal. No, it's not. Don't let your child get taught
Well,
that.
they even in Corey, I believe it was Corey that says it towards the end. He talks about people being angry that it's not bigger names, but he's like, those are the people are like the managers, those type of people, the ones that are close but behind scenes at the same time are the ones that are doing these type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it's just people of importance that have a lot of money that are not the face, that hang around the celebrities and are not really known. But there's also well known people that just have a lot of money and feel invincible and are predators as well. And then you've got the scum of the earth. You've got poor predators, you have tweaker predators, you have every kind of predator you can think of. You just need to pay attention to the signs of who is a predator.
agreed, I
Um,
couldn't have said it any better.
yeah, so John Grissom, Dominic Brescia, Marty Weiss is who I wanted to talk about also. He's on Twitter causing a lot of havoc. And he doesn't have very many followers, but a lot of people are going to his Twitter because of this documentary and just to see, who's doing what these days, right? I did. And yeah, he's upset, obviously. He's saying things are not true. He's making a lot of tweets and he's ready to argue. Well, Marty, he's been in trouble for this in the past, right? And he got caught. He's registered. And he's claiming that Corey only that him and Corey were really good friends, and he is only doing this and using his name as a cash cow, is what he said. Because Corey has known about him and has known about Dominic and has known about, a few other situations, I guess Marty said, that he won't tell. And after Corey Haim died and Corey Feldman lost Corey Haim, which Marty thinks that Corey Haim was Corey Feldman's cash cow at the time until he died. Now he's moving on to exposing people. In my opinion, Marty, if you're happen to come across this, because I know you are very nosy to things on YouTube, I see all your fake videos under fake names. I think you're a piece of shit.
I'm sorry to laugh, but I love when G gets real. So,
And I think that you need to stop. You are a convicted, registered sex offender. And even though you didn't get caught for what you've done with Corey Haim or Corey Feldman or, you know, whatever the allegations are, you were caught with another 14-year-old and whoever else. So, therefore, you are a convicted, registered sex offender. And he's coming out with a book. How you can like offend or be an offender without offending, right? We've heard this before.
okay. Yeah.
And like his story, right? And his side of things or whatever. I'm not going to read it, Marty. I hope nobody buys your book. You are a registered sex offender. Like, period. People just need to hear that and be like, okay, period. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no questions. You are a registered sex offender.
I'm going to pirate
I'm
your
not going to
PDF.
believe you. So therefore, please just stop. And if you guys want to go type in Marty Weiss on Twitter and go see for yourself his just nonsense. That's all I wanted to say about him. I just don't really like him. I just don't get how you can be a convicted registered sex offender and feel like you have a voice and a platform and you can speak to people. It's like, no, you can't. I don't think so. Not when you hurt a little boy. No,
Yeah,
I don't
didn't
want to hear
realize
it.
he was jumping in like that. I didn't look that much into him. I knew he was one of the bigger names.
I mean, yeah, go
Charlie
be
Sheen's
like,
doing something similar. He's not writing a book, but he's saying that he's just using his name for money and to get attention.
I haven't seen a statement from Charlie. Did you?
Yeah, I read 2 articles. I'll send them to you later. We can link them in the description.
Like old articles or most recent since the
They
doc?
they seem like recent from like within the last 15 hours.
Okay, because I haven't seen most recent. I was looking for recent from any of these guys except for the dead one, obviously, and I didn't see anything except for Marty Weiss going ham on Twitter. But Charlie Sheen, I don't know. Like, that story is so detailed for it to be fake. And Charlie, he's just like, imagine at his age, right? And all the success he had at that time, even now. But at that time, he was,
Huge.
he was at the top. Like, he felt probably the most powerful, invincible man in Hollywood. Like, he felt so good. Like, cars, women, drugs, parties, movies, just shows, interviews. He was at the, like, just, I don't know. You know, when you first start coming up and you just feel at the top of your game and things start going down a little bit, right? You start getting a little less work, a little less money. Like, I'm talking about that kind of top. So I just feel like it's totally possible. Like, I just am never going to not believe someone's story.
Well, I mean, and look at Charlie's record. I mean, he's known to be a
Right.
great sex being.
Paying off people, the domestic violence, all sorts of stuff. So it's totally possible. And I'm never going to not believe a victim. My sister is a survivor, and like, this is really personal, but my dad didn't believe my sister. He still doesn't, so not believing someone, no matter who it is, even if it wasn't my sister, not believing someone is so traumatic all on its own and can hurt someone in so many more ways than even the rape or molestation. Like, just not being believed or heard and feeling like you have nobody. Just like the counselor in the documentary said, it makes you want to do drugs, have bad relationships. You're just toxic. You're a toxic human being when you don't know how to cope with something and nobody's hearing you. So I believe the stories, until someone, shows proof otherwise. And someone came to me and said, have you seen evidence? And I replied with, I can read you the reply. Someone says there's 2 sides to every story. Just saying I've heard, but haven't seen facts about it. I know I'll receive heat about it, but have you heard about the black hole? Is what someone has said. And I put, my dad told my sister since he didn't see anything, it didn't happen. He still believes and protects my stepbrother who raped my sister for years. We can either not believe victims and survivors and not trust their word, which gives predators more power, or take what the victims and survivors are saying and investigate it and build a case, not just swipe it under the rug. because a picture or video wasn't taken or a rape kit wasn't used right away, it doesn't defeat the fact of what happened.
Yep.
I seen what he was saying, but as a sibling to a survivor who has not been believed, I trust people who say they were hurt. And if they are lying, that's something that should be just as punishable.
Agreed.
And I think people do lie, and that's really, really messed up.
That's a whole other discussion.
I'll hold back my bad language on that one, but it is really messed up. And I do believe that if you're a liar when it comes to being raped or molested, you should be punished the same as if the predator would be.
I mean, if those people do that, they're basically spitting in the actual victims' faces. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, there's so many people that don't get believed or listened to, or the predators get put behind bars, and someone doing that ruins that for another survivor or victim, you know.
Absolutely. It's very sad. And I honestly went into this not believing Corey. I 100% honestly thought it was a scam. He scammed people that night. I was like, he just made hundreds of thousands, if not millions. But Corey, I mean, I know you're not going to listen to this, but I believe you.
So I think I want to end it here. If you have any thoughts or opinions or comments, let us know in the comments below, and we'll for sure read them. And maybe we'll have a part 2 where we talk about, you know, the aftermath and what may come of this documentary. Only time will tell, and we will have to see for ourselves. And I hope that if there are other victims and survivors of the men that were listed, I hope they come forward. I guess we will have to just wait and see what happens.
Yep, we'll definitely cover it again. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of aftermath.
For sure. Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Until next time, Banana Cats.
Banana Cats, much love.